Today we are going to see one of the simple instrument which has been utilized to study the interaction of atomic and molecular level with respect to radiant energy, that is electromagnetic interaction of molecule and atoms by using colorimeter and spectrophotometer. In this particular video we are going to learn in detail and instrumentation part of both the instruments. First we'll try to understand how and what is the nature of electromagnetic radiations. The radiant energy has wave nature. These radiations are called electromagnetic radiation. The wave form of it comprises of, if we'll draw the wave nature of this electromagnetic radiation, this is the, you can say, peak height, or we can call this as crest, and this is trough. Distance between successive crest is defined as wavelength. These are, when it starts from here, ups and downs, it completes one cycle. Okay, the wave completes one cycle. This energy of these waves is given by a simple equation equal to h nu, where h is Planck's constant, nu is the frequency, which we can further write as h into c by lambda, where c is velocity of light, lambda is wavelength. This full electromagnetic spectrum comprises of increase in energy with respect to X-ray, UV, visible, near IR, IR and microwave. If we'll see in detail the ultraviolet and visible region, where ultraviolet region ranges from 200 to 400 and visible region from 400 to 800 nanometer. In visible region, our naked eye see different colors. So that is our visible region, 400 to 800 nanometer. The wavelength determines the color in the visible light. That's why we can see different colors. Now we'll see over here the sequence of the color: purple, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red. Can you see this sequence? Have you seen such sequence in the nature? Yes. Rainbow has similar order of color. This is possible. This is due to wavelength. Frequency, that is, these are the different terms utilized in photometry or spectrophotometry. In both these instruments, we are going to utilize this term throughout our session. Mu is the frequency. It is number of cycles or waves passed through the fixed point, that is cycles per second or hertz, its unit. Wavelength, distance between successive crest and trough. It can be determined in number of different units such as angstrom, nanometer, micrometer, picometer, etc. 1 angstrom, which we convert, if it convert it into centimeter, it will be 10 to the power minus 8, and in meters 10 to the power minus 10. Nanometer, if we convert it into centimeters, it is 10 to the power minus 7, and in meters, yes, very good, 10 to the power minus 9 meters. Wave number, that is mu bar, number of waves spread in centimeter. It is reciprocal of wavelength in centimeter. So unit will be centimeter inverse. Velocity, that is the distance traveled by a wave per second. So that value is excellent, 2.99 or 3 into 10 to the power 10 centimeter per second. These are the different colors which are visible to you, and these are the different wavelengths which are applied to obtain the different colors. Now we'll see how this particular branch of photometry, which is most common analytical technique utilized in number of different measurements with respect to intensity of beam of light. Photometric principles are applied to several kinds of analytical instruments. When the radiant energy is absorbed or transmitted, light is measured, then those number of instruments comes under this heading are colorimetry, where the amount of energy is absorbed or transmitted, as well as absorbed and transmitted in spectrophotometry. Here in atomic absorption, name itself, the radiant energy is absorbed. Terbimetry, absorbed, transmitted. Nephelometry, absorbed and transmitted. Whereas in case of flame photometry, the radiant energy or light is emitted and which is measured. There are simple basic laws of photometry. We'll see in detail. When, when we are passing a light through any object, suppose here the object is transparent, here the object is transparent or colored, what do you expect through any object? Transparent, suppose a glass is there. If I pass a ray of light, what do you expect to happen to the glass and on other side of the glass? What will happen if I transfer a ray of light? Definitely some amount of light is absorbed by the glass, some will transmitted and some is reflected. Very good. That is the basic law of photometry. Total amount of light is always an addition of amount of light absorbed, refracted and transmitted. So if here P is incident light, this is an object which I have tried to show colored object. This is the thickness of this is an exaggeration I have done over here lightly to understand the thickness of the particular object. Then some amount of light, PT is the transmitted light, PA is the absorbed light and PR is the refracted light. So total amount of light P will be addition of all of this PA, PT and PR. Compared to absorbed light and transmitted light, the refracted light is very less. This is second law of photometry, that is Lambert's law. I'll tell you the statement first. I will understand the statement and then we'll try to derive an equation based on statement. When a beam of monochromatic light is allowed to pass through the transparent medium, then decrease in intensity of the incident light is directly proportional to the thickness of the medium. If I increase the thickness, transmitted light will be less. If I decrease the thickness, transmitted light will be more. Excellent. So, what statement we have just now quoted? Decrease in intensity of light. If P0 is the incident light, P is the transmitted light, the derivative of that if you write minus dP by dB. Decrease in intensity with respect to thickness of the light. Okay, so that is directly proportional to the incident light we have taken over here as P. Now, if we rearrange the equation, if we'll find out the proportionality constant, we'll get minus dP upon dB equal to K1 into P, or minus dP upon P equal to K1 dB. We have just rearranged the equation. If we integrate this into proper limits of B as 0 to 1 and P as P0 to P, P0 to P, then we'll get minus log P upon P0 equal to K1 into B, or log to the base E, we have changed log to the base 10, we'll get 2.303 log P0 upon P equal to K1 B, where log P0 upon P is nothing but absorbance. So absorbance is directly proportional to the thickness of the media. So what this first law, Lambert's law, tells me, absorbance is directly proportional to the thickness. Now we'll see Beer's law. What we have done change over here, we have tried to pass the incident monochromatic light through the colored solution. So my statement changes. When a beam of monochromatic light is allowed to pass through the colored solution, then decrease in intensity of the incident light is directly proportional to the concentration of the solution. Or we can write down statement as minus dP upon dC, just changed with respect to initial statement. Instead of B, we have got over here C, directly proportional to P. By putting proportionality constant, we will get this equation as minus dP upon dC equal to K1P, or minus dP upon P equal to K1 dC. If we will integrate this equation between proper limits of P0 to P and C as 0 to 1, we will get minus log of P upon P0 equal to K1C, where log of P0 upon P, rearranging the log P0 upon P is nothing but absorbance. So absorbance is directly proportional to, here it should be concentration C, or A equal to K1C. So we can say Beer's law as absorbance directly proportional to concentration. If we combine these two laws, Lambert's, Beer's law, what statement we can quote? When a beam of monochromatic light is allowed to pass through the transparent medium, then decrease in intensity of the incident light is directly proportional to, very good, dash dash thickness of the medium and concentration of the solution. Excellent. A is directly proportional to B as well as C, or we can say A equal to KBC or A equal to ABC. Very good. Definitely easy to remember this particular statement, A equal to KBC, where A is absorbance, B is path length, C is concentration of solution, and small a is nothing but absorptivity. Proportionality constant we have defined here, absorptivity. It is independent of the wavelength and nature of absorbing material. In case of your instrument, generally this B, the path length, remains constant as we are utilizing same instrument throughout the experiment. So A is directly proportional to C, this particular equation we are utilizing during measurement. The terms utilized in photometry during calculation, where radiant power is defined as P0, it is incident beam of radiant energy. Capital T, transmitted, amount of light transmitted from the solution. It is nothing but ratio of, very good, radiant power transmitted by sample to radiant power incident upon sample, or capital T equal to P upon P0. Percent transmittance we can calculate by from this equation as percent T equal to T into 100. Absorbance, which again we can call it as optical density. It is negative log to the base 10 of transmittance, negative log to the base 10 of transmittance, or A equal to log of P0 upon P. We have utilized this term in our derivations, or A equal to ABC or KBC. Very good. Percent absorbance equal to A into 100. Absorptivity or extinction coefficient, that is small a, which has been called as extinction coefficient or absorption index or optical density. It is ratio of absorbance to the product of concentration and path length. Small a, it is ratio. If we'll take from this equation, small a, it is ratio of absorbance towards the product of path length and concentration. Molar absorptivity. Now, how we'll get this particular term of molar absorptivity? You have to simply multiply A, absorptivity, with respect to molecular weight of solute. You'll get molar absorptivity, or it can be called as molar extinction coefficient. It is product of absorptivity and molecular weight of solute. Hence, concentration should be always expressed in moles per liter. Reminder. Path length, it is the internal cell length, always expressed in centimeters. Now, if we try to construct this particular instrument, colorimetry and spectrophotometry, or if we'll try to draw the block diagram, considering the statement, when a beam of monochromatic light is allowed to pass through the sample solution, then what things we need is a source of light, monochromator to convert a beam of single beam of light, sample solution, colored solution, detector and readout device. So these are your components of colorimeter as well as spectrophotometer. Radiant source, filters, monochromators, sample solution has been kept in a container which is called as cuvette, detectors and readout device. Same diagram we can see over here as light as a source. We can have monochromator, then color solution, detector and readout device. Single beam colorimeter. Colorimeter is usually been called as single beam colorimeter. In single beam we are going to determine and obtain the reading. The instrument look like this. Whereas spectrophotometer, the instrument which usually utilize to obtain the absorbance of solution or transmittance of solution in a region UV as well as visible, whereas colorimeter utilized in range of visible, that is, can you tell me wavelength range 400 to 800 nanometer, colorimetry and spectrophotometry 200 to 400 and 400 to 800. So the instrument works, or block diagram we can say light source, wavelength, sample, detector and readout device. This is single beam. Usually, double beam spectrophotometer has been utilized where light source monochromator, that beam of light has been passed through sample solution as well as reference cuvette. So you are putting twice the sample solution. Here your colored solution whose absorbance or transmittance you are interested in measuring. This solution has been prepared by using some solvent. You can keep that solvent as a reference over here. So whatever absorbance due to reference will be minimized and you will get only the detector response with respect to your colored solute on your display device. We'll see in detail the components utilized in colorimetry as well as spectrophotometry. The first component is source. Now, source of light, here we can utilize tungsten filament lamp, which is simple. Tungsten filament has been there which emits the radiant energy, and here I have wrote down source as deuterium lamp. There are many more such sources available in market which can be utilized as a light source. Can you tell me any other source apart from this tungsten filament lamp and deuterium lamp? Any other? Yes, xenon discharge lamp, hydrogen lamp. Now, tungsten filament lamp, where you are giving input of current, this filament gets heated up and it emits the energy. You might have experienced that this bulb will get heated up if I use for a long term. That is the disadvantage of this particular tungsten filament lamp. Now, what are the expectation of the sources to be utilized as a light source in colorimetry and spectrophotometry? When I am using this source in colorimeter, it should give maximum amount of light in a region 400 nanometer to 800 nanometer. That is the basic eligibility. Whereas in spectrophotometry, if I am using a source, this particular, it should emit maximum amount of light in UV as well as visible region. So these particular sources fulfill this particular requirement that they emit maximum amount of light in visible region. Now, working of this deuterium lamp, hydrogen lamp, xenon discharge lamp. The name hydrogen, deuterium, xenon, it imparts gas has been inbuilt inside the container. So when I'm putting electrical supply to this particular lamp, what will happening to those gaseous molecules? They get charged up. They will absorb the energy from the current which you have supplied. They get energized. They are moving from ground state to excited state and emit the energy in the form of light. This particular movement of this gaseous molecule inside this container obtain continuously like a Brownian movement, and you will get the light as a source from this particular lamp. Basic requirement of source to be utilized in colorimeter and spectrophotometer, where they should produce constant and sufficient power for during the detection and measurement. It should provide stable and continuous radiations in visible region as well as UV region. Filters, the next component which is there in your colorimeter and spectrophotometer. The name itself tells me what is the role of filter. If you look at this particular diagram, simply you can understand that here I have tried to show sun as a source of light. It gives me different colors, like we have seen in electromagnetic radiation, the second slide, that it imparts different color depending upon the wavelength. Now what filter is? It filters all other wavelengths, and the person is interested in this particular light. So my object, I should use the component in such a way that I'll get only one wavelength from this particular. It filters all other wavelength, or it absorbs all other wavelength, and it allowed to pass a single wavelength through it. So there are two different types of filters. One is absorption filter. Name itself tells it absorbs all other radiations and allowed to pass a single radiation from it. This particular filter we can construct by taking simply a two glass plate imbibed with the colored pigment or dye suspended in gelatin. Now the color of the dye we have to utilize as complementary color, where this color might be different from the color obtained from the filter. So you have to use different filters depending upon the color pigment imbibed. You will get different wavelength, and you can utilize this absorption filter as a source of particular wavelength in colorimetry. Whereas interference filter generally utilize an spectrophotometer to obtain a particular wavelength. Here you are utilizing this particular interference filter. This is simply a transparent layer of coating over a glass of calcium fluoride CaF2 or magnesium fluoride in between these two transparent sheets. Here, when a ray of light has been passed through this particular sheet, it transmits radiations, as well as some amount of radiations are reflected back. Whatever amount of reflected back radiations are undergoing constructive interference, they are added at this particular node and pass again to transmit the radiation. This particular instrument works on basis on a simple equation of Bragg's law, n lambda equal to 2d sine theta, where d is the distance between the plates, n is the refractive index of your solution whatever you utilize, lambda, and lambda 2d sine theta, where this is the angle of incidence we have utilized. So if angle of incidence change, we can change the wavelength, or distance if we change, we can get the different wavelength. By using this interference filter, we can obtain a wavelength of different nanometer. A range of wavelength is available in case of spectrophotometer, where you can change from 400 to 401, 402, 1 nanometer change we can do. This is possible by utilizing interference filter. Next component is monochromator. Prism. It is a triangular device. You might have seen this prism made up of quartz or glass. You might have experienced, you'd utilize our interesting experiment when ray of light has been passed, you can obtain a rainbow. It is made up of glass or quartz. So monochromator, it is a device, optical device that converts polychromatic radiation into a monochromatic source. So when you are using this filter, you are getting single wavelength light. It may be refracted in number of directions. So whatever the radiations are spread out, it collects all radiation and monochromatic. In a beam of light, it passes towards your next through the solution. Another monochromator you can use over here is diffraction grating. Polished surface with number of grooves are there. When a ray of light pass over here, this is angle of incidence. This is highly polished surface of alumina you are utilizing over here, where the whatever polychromatic radiations are converted into monochromatic radiations. Diffraction grating is utilized as a monochromator in spectrophotometer, whereas prism is utilized as a monochromator in colorimeter. After getting source, filter, monochromator, in your hand you are having a particular wavelength of beam of light to be passed through the solution. So solution here has been kept in a container which has been termed as a cuvette, simple glass tube. There are two types of cuvette: simple glass tube containing colored solution made up of glass. Cylindrical device can be utilized as a cuvette in colorimeter, whereas rectangular cuvette made up of quartz is utilized in spectrophotometer. Now, what is the basic eligibility of this particular material to be utilized in UV as well as visible region? That this should not absorb any amount of radiation. Only the solution, colored solution, whatever has been filled up, that should absorb, that will be absorbing radiations. So material should be inert towards the absorption of radiation. So if I utilize the same glass material in spectrophotometer, glass absorbs in UV region, so we need to replace this particular cuvette by quartz. So this has been called as again a cell with internal thickness, internal thickness 1 or 2 centimeter usually has been utilized. the amount required in colorimeter or spectrophotometer during determination is 1 or 3 ml is sufficient to utilize during measurement. This quartz cuvette, where you can see the surface here is front surface is opaque, whereas this is transparent. So you have to put this cuvette in your double beam spectrophotometer in such a way that opaque surface is in front of you and a beam of light pass through this transparent surface to obtain the reading. Detector utilized, where the role of detector is to convert the light energy obtained as transmitted light from this particular colored solution to convert it into electrical energy. It should be sensitive, it should give me linear response, its noise level should be low, it should have short response time, and it should be stable. So there are 3 different types of detectors available: photovoltaic cell, phototube, and photomultiplier tube. We'll see one by one in detail. Photovoltaic cell. Just see at this diagram, photovoltaic cell. Photons, that is the radiant energy emitted from the transmitted from your colored solution, you want to convert it into electrical energy. So this is an photovoltaic cell. If you'll see, this part of this cell is nothing but PN junction. It converts light energy into electrical energy. How? We'll see. Upper part is the transparent layer made up of silver or gold. Centrally the layer of selenium, semiconductor, and downstairs highly conducting layer, that is Fe or copper, iron or copper. So when photons are getting interacted over this upper part, this layer converts this photon into number of electrons. So number of electrons are ejected when photon strikes over the upper surface. This number of ejected electrons are collected at this particular metal base plate. Due to this interaction, due to this development of electron, electrical barrier develops, and it try to transport the signal in terms of, from here the direction of electron flow starts, the galvanometer shows deflection, and you will get a reading. So produced current is proportional to the incident radiation. Whatever incident radiation over on this particular transparent layer, depending upon that, it produces the current. Second detector, that is the phototube. This, if you'll see, photons converted into electrical energy. It is a glass evacuated tube, consists of an photocathode made up of selenium oxide or potassium or silver, having large surface area compared to anode, which is acting as an collecting electrons electrode. When photon strikes over this cathode surface, it ejects electron. Ejected electrons are collected at anode, and the signal is transmitted, and hence you will get a reading where photons, that is light energy, has been converted into electrical energy. This is more intense light, greater the photocurrent. This is sensitive compared to photovoltaic cell. The third detector, that is photomultiplier tube. Photons get multiplied when signal is very small and you are still interested in detecting the absorbance and transmittance of that particular solution. It is possible by using this particular detector. The cross-sectional view of this photomultiplier tube I have tried to show over here, where you will see and glass evacuated tube is there. Here you are having cathode, and these are the different diodes alternatively arranged with increasing voltage, and at last you are having anode, which acts as collecting electrons electrode. So when a single photon strikes over the cathode, it ejects electron. Ejected electron, when strikes at diode, as they are arranged alternatively with increasing voltage, the signal get multiplied by ejecting. When one electron strike, it ejects 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 32. In that way, signal get amplified. So if you want to detect the smaller signal, you can able to detect by this, because signal get amplified. It is highly sensitive, it gives very good response time, This has been utilized generally as an detector in spectrophotometer, whereas photovoltaic cell or phototube you can utilize in colorimeter. Now, when I am using this Beer's law for my solutions to detect absorbance, sometimes this A is directly proportional to C, that is the Beer's law. Absorbance directly proportional to concentration. When I am measuring for different color, for different concentration of solution, the absorbance, as I am increasing concentration, absorbance increases. Okay, so I'll get huge straight line passing through the origin, that is the ideal plot of Beer's law. But if I am getting the absorbance more than the expected reading, it has been termed as positive deviation. Or when I am getting absorbance less than the expected reading, then it is termed as negative deviation. Now, why this happens? Positive deviation and negative deviation. This may happen due to instrumental error, temperature, solvent utilized, solute solvent interactions, refractive index of solvent, or chemical changes associated with concentration. Now we'll see few examples over here. You might have utilized, all of you, potassium dichromate solution. You might have seen in a lab orange yellow color solution, potassium dichromate solution. So solute solvent interaction or dissociation happens in this case where dichromate converted into chromate, orange to light yellow. So decrease in absorbance than expected reading. Negative deviation is observed in case of this dichromate solution. This particular law is valid at very low concentration. Dilute solutions you have to utilize where the law is valid. You can't utilize this particular law, apply this particular law in case of solutions having coagulation, suspensions, impurities showing fluorescence or fluorescence solutions or highly concentrated solutions. So you might have understood all these instrumental variation with respect to components in case of colorimeter and spectrophotometer. We'll try to just compile all the knowledge whatever we have understood through these particular instrumentation parts, and we'll compare these instruments with respect to different parameters. The first parameter I am giving you is the wavelength. Which is the wavelength utilized in colorimeter? Very good. 400 to 800 nanometer or visible region. In spectrophotometer, UV visible region 200 to 800. Light source, tungsten filament lamp. In spectrophotometry, deuterium lamp. Filters, absorption filter in colorimetry, interference filter in spectrophotometry. Prism as a monochromator in colorimeter and diffraction grating as a monochromator in spectrophotometer. Cuvette utilized made up of glass in colorimeter, whereas cuvette made up of quartz rectangular tube utilized in spectrophotometer. Yes, you know the reason. Detectors, phototube, photocell. In case of spectrophotometer, photo multiplier tube. Spectral isolation, that is filter need to be changed in case of colorimetry. You have to change the filter. Here desired wavelength can be adjusted as it is programmed. Spectrophotometer, this instrument has been attached to the software where you can give the wavelength and it will adjust wavelength accordingly. Spectral bandwidth, it is broad. You might have seen the filters where the bandwidth, the spectral bandwidth has been written over here. Here the narrow, 1 nanometer change also we can do. Spectral purity is less, here more, accuracy is less in colorimeter compared to spectrophotometer. Sample is little bit larger than spectrophotometer. Cost, definitely colorimeter is cheaper or low cost than spectrophotometer. These are the few references I have quoted over here. You can go through these references, try to acquire more details based on this colorimeter and spectrophotometer. Hope you have understood and enjoyed this instrumentation part of colorimeter and spectrophotometer. Stay tuned with my coming video based on applications of colorimeter and spectrophotometer as part 2. Thank you. Please like, share and subscribe this video. Thank you.